And we are back with another episode discussing Kids Deserve It. We'll be talking chapter 24 today, taking charge of your learning. So I'll give everybody a couple of seconds to get logged in and ready to go, and then I will begin this week's chat. Already seeing some friendly faces. There's some of my Florida people. Oh man, I gotta figure out a way to get to see some of these people in Florida from this school. It's so awesome every time. So thrilled to have all of you on here. My name is Todd Neslony. I am the co-author of Kids Deserve It, and I am thrilled that you are joining me again for another week as we discuss different chapters from the book. This week we are on chapter 24, which is Take Charge of Your Learning. This is a chapter I am very passionate about and one that I present about often when I go and talk to different schools and districts and things like that. Hey, Nate's on here. Great to see you. And Eli, I see him on there too. And so, we start the chapter out talking about how, we looking at education. And sometimes I talk often about, sometimes you can walk into a high school classroom and it looks exactly the same as a high school classroom from the 1970s, except instead of a chalkboard, there may be a dry erase board or a smart board. But the desks still typically sit in rows or desks or things like that. And I think about how that doesn't scare us when we see that image sometimes. But if we were to see a doctor's office in 1970 and then see a doctor's office in 2017, the differences between those two are so starkly different that we would never step foot in a 1970s operating room, but we would want a 2017 one. So why are we still okay with the way these classrooms are? And sometimes it is just an education issue of that we haven't educated ourselves well enough on the way that things can be different and how they can be better. And so it's important for us as educators to make sure that we are continuing our education. Now, the use of technology and things like social media have really opened up all new realms. I used to have the excuse, as well as many other educators, as my district can't afford to send me, we don't have the money, I can't be off those days, the sub plans are too much to write, or they can't get me a sub, and we would make that be the excuse of why we could only attend maybe one training or one conference a year. Well, the fact of the matter is that now with social media and tools like that, we have this learning to do that we can do 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, completely free. And we talk about in the book, now don't get me wrong, we love social media and connecting, but Adam and I are both really big believers in that connecting face to face as well, and that's still important. And that's why we utilize tools like Google Hangouts or Skype to have those video calls. We utilize tools like Voxer so that we can have those voice chats with people that are more than just the typical 140 characters. And I'm using Periscope now to connect with you guys, just to give you a little more perspective than just what was written on a page. And often though, whenever we talk about how we can take charge of our learning and we can learn wherever, whenever, using things like social media, we still hear lots of excuses. And sometimes those excuses, and I'll go through the different excuses that we talk about in our book. And one of them is the excuse of I don't have time. And I often talk about how that should never be something we say is I don't have time. Because the fact of the matter is we always have time for exactly what we choose to make time for. So if we really want to say something, then what we need to say is there are things in my life that are more important that take up the time I have. Because that's the truth. Because if it was important to us, we make time for it. Just like with people in your life, the people in your life that are important for you, you make time for them, regardless of how busy or crazy your life is. And so sometimes it's a conversation of looking at our schedule. Can we rearrange things? Can we look at things differently? Can something be done quicker or in a different way? We don't necessarily have to reinvent the wheel every time. We can just look at making it better and finding better ways to do that. Another one that I hear a lot is it's just too confusing. Whether it's Twitter's too confusing, or the smartboard's too confusing, or that iPad's too confusing, or whatever. And I often say, there was this website created a couple years ago. You may have heard it. It's called Google. And if you just go and Google, what is a hashtag? How do I turn my projector on? Anything as simple as that. You can get a answer, whether you are a visual learner and you need a YouTube video, whether you're an audio learner and then you find a podcast, or you read a blog or a news post or something like that, that is at our fingertips. And I often say, we ask kids to come into our school and learn every single day. So how dare we not continue learning ourselves? And part of that is when we don't know how to do something, look it up and learn how to do it. We tell the kids to collaborate. We tell the kids to figure out. As educators, we have to be doing the same thing. Another one that I hear is that my district would never approve it. And you know the way I kind of look at that and what I tell my teachers, it's always easier to ask for forgiveness than it is permission. If what you're doing is truly in the best interest of children and what's best for them, then I say do it. And yes, I get my hand slapped, and yes, I get in trouble, and I got in trouble as a teacher as well as an administrator, but I know that I try to make every decision based upon if it is truly what's best for kids, and if that means I have to rock the boat or go against the way things have always been done, then you know what? The kids are worth it. I'm willing to do it because just like our book says, they deserve it. Another one that we have in here is I don't understand the value. And sometimes teachers are like, well, I don't get it. I don't see why I have to do this. And, for me, I think the biggest benefit I have from social media, rather than, yes, it's been connecting with people, it's been learning all these new ideas, but at the same time, I think one of the biggest things for me is the empathy that it has given me to many different social groups, as well as a more worldview of how things are and how they exist and what beliefs are and things like that. And for me, it has given me such a passion to speak out against different injustices that I may have not noticed because of the way I was raised or because of the environment that I currently worked in or the way I went to school. And it's really just given me a passion to stand up for what I believe in and fight for every kid from every background, from every family. And I think that's why it's important, too, for us to get connected. I love what my friends Donalyn Miller and Jennifer Lagarde often say, is that that's why kids need to devour books, and that's why we need to be reading so many children's books to kids and picture books and things from different backgrounds and with characters that look like all these different things around our country, because that's how you build empathy into kids. Another one that we have in here is I've been doing fine for years, why change now? And it's funny because I hear this all the time, whether I'm traveling or in my own district or sometimes even at my own campus. It's like, you know what? My stuff's been fine. Nobody's had an issue with it. I don't know why you have an issue with it. Why do I have to change now? And again, I think of what I tell parents when they told me that when I was in the classroom is, there was a time when people said, I don't need air conditioning. I haven't needed air conditioning. Why do I need it now? But let me tell you, I want my air conditioning. Or we used to say things like, well, getting around on a horse was good enough. And that's how we got from place to place. But now we have cars, and we like cars, and I don't want to go back to riding a horse and not having airplanes or cars or things for travel. And even something as simple as, even a couple of years ago, we didn't have Wi-Fi in houses. And now, I don't know about you, but I go crazy when I don't have access to Wi-Fi. None of the equipment that I have is able to be hardwired into anything. All of it's Wi-Fi. And that's the way the world is. The world is changing constantly, and we have to be changing too, whether it's comfortable for us or not, because that's what's best for kids. And finally, the last excuse that we discuss is our test scores are already strong, so why push more? And I look at that as, if you are at a school where your test scores are already amazing, you have so much potential to blow the roof off of what is possible with kids. Now, that's not saying those schools that don't have the scores can't do the same thing. Our school is working to get out of a hole. We are an underperforming campus, and it's hard and it's difficult. And we are trying to do exceptional things that are best for kids, while also trying to appease the state and the local governing bodies. But if you are lucky enough where that's not an issue for you because you don't have to worry about that, that is the perfect time to push harder and push further to give your kids the most amazing experiences that they wouldn't get otherwise. Because in reality, just like Nate just put on here, it's not about a test. Reality is providing kids with a learning experience that they can't get anywhere else. And I want to be the kind of educator where my kids remember the fun things that I did with them that deepened their learning and gave them a more social, emotional outlook on things and taught them how to invest in others and grow as great citizens. I look at the world we live in now and the way many things are with our own government and government officials. And it's even so much more important now for us to be teaching our kids social skills and empathy and understanding, and really getting out there and getting them to work towards giving to others. That's just as important as the educational side in my book. I'm always talk about how I believe our job as educators is 50% emotional and 50% academic, and we got to make sure we're covering both sides. What I want to leave you with is we have to take charge of our learning. And if we choose not to, all we're doing is making excuses. And my favorite thing to say that I've already said here as well is, how dare you walk into a classroom every day and tell your kids to learn if you are not learning yourself. And there are truly no excuses why any educator cannot be continuing their learning. And so it's time that we stop making excuses and do what's best for our kids and learn and grow and push ourselves and be uncomfortable and fail and get back up and try again, because that's when true awesomeness happens. I hope you all join the Twitter chat here after this at 8 o'clock Central Standard Time tonight, and I will see you next week.